When it comes to having your back taken on the ground, somebody's got a rear naked choke on you, they got their hooks in, it may seem like you have no other options. Now, to get out of that position isn't too difficult. It just takes a lot of consistent work, a lot of consistent moving, and you basically just have to focus on a few crucial concepts and continuously work towards that idea, and eventually you're gonna be able to work yourself out of it. Understand the position as a whole. Person's going to have their hooks in. They might start with the seatbelt grip position, or they're working towards some sort of choke. If you find yourself where this person lands and just instantly locks up this choke a little bit, you could be in trouble very quickly. So there's a couple, again, concepts that we have to focus on. The number one rule, you have to get control of this choking arm. I am not physically necessarily going to be able to pull this arm down, especially again if it's a bigger person. But simply by me putting my fingers in and pulling down and tucking my elbow a little bit, even if he tries to squeeze me as hard as he can, it's still going to be difficult, and it still gives me a little bit of time to breathe while I work everything else. So this is the first thing. I have to have control of this arm at all times. If I release it, fight's over. So you have to, whether I'm exchanging my arms, if I'm peeling this arm and he starts reaching with the other hand, I have to somehow fight that choking arm off. So if I manage to pull one of the arms down and now we're in that game where he's still just kind of continuously looking for a choke, the idea is that I necessarily kind of like shrug my shoulders and get your traps involved to the point where it makes it a little bit more difficult for them to actually get to your neck because your neck's not as easily exposed. And you also have to make sure you're answering the phone a lot. So I'm just constantly answering the phone, trying to protect my neck, all while we focus on our second concept, which is getting my hips free. Now, in order to do that, if this person has a very weak bottom hook, that's gonna be simple. I got the choke, I put pressure on the bottom hook, and I hop my hips over. Now from here, I'm essentially out of the position. I just have to get out of this particular spot, but we're free from the choke from this side, simply because I was able to get this hook off. If they manage to have a nice tight hook and you're here, I want to work towards my feet and actually start driving my pressure back up to his shoulders. Now, all this does is stall out his ability to choke me. It limits his ability to actually pull back on the choke because he doesn't have as much room with his shoulders. So as long as I can maintain this, I'm okay to start working. Now, he's going to start trying to pull me one side or the other. My job is to simply stay focused up here as I work this choking arm. Now, ideally, whichever side is choking you, I want to work towards that side as much as possible because, again, it isolates his ability and limits his ability to actually pull that choke through. Over here, he can get the full strength of the choke. If we hop to the choking arm, it makes it very difficult for him to finish the choke, and a lot of times he's now going to have to start looking to switch to this arm, which, again, if I'm answering the phone, I've now just prevented him from choking me. Now, if we're in this position again, I'm constantly looking to move my hips and get my hips over his leg, but at the same time, now I want to start pressuring on this arm, looking to push his elbow up. Now I can grab onto the actual clothing, I can simply just lock onto the elbow and the wrist and drive the elbow forward, and as he drives it forward, I duck my head and I just simply tuck the arm next to me. Now I can hold on to this arm if I want to, but the idea is that now the arm is clear. Now I just have to simply focus on getting my hips free. So again, I can start walking my hips up a little bit. I can literally start hopping my hips to get my hips over his leg, whatever you need to do. But I'm literally looking to get my hips free and my choking arm free. Even if he does not have the choking arm free, as long as I have my hips free, he can no longer choke me from this position. And that's the biggest thing to take away. The hips is more important, but I still have to maintain control of this arm at least. Once you get to this position, or this position, doesn't matter. I don't necessarily want to turn towards the head because now I'm exposing my back and he can just simply regain control and take the back again. So ideally, once you get into this position, work your hips away a little bit, and I'm actually looking to come up into the person this way. And again, I can work towards the back, I can work into his guard, I can work onto mount. You have options, but you do have to take note that a lot of times these guys, once we get into this position, they may actually look to start coming up into a mount position. So if that's the case, you might just have to react quickly, get your framing in, and scoot your hips away. Otherwise, another common reaction is as I come up, he pulls guard, which if that's the case and he pulls guard, then I just have to be ready to pop up, break the guard, and get out of that position altogether. Either way, all those positions are a lot easier to get out of and less threatening to you than having someone on your back choking you. Now, let's understand another thing when you are in this position. We are in a street fight. This isn't sport jiu-jitsu. Yes, this is a very dominant position when it comes to sports, but in the streets, not so much. This is going to work more in my favor. So when we're in these positions, again, he can be squeezing me, he can be choking me, we can be on the sides, I can get my hips down here. But as long as I'm controlling this position, if he just has a really good grip down here and I just can't get my hips free, I can start dropping elbows from here, I can start scratching, I can start pulling on the hair, I can do whatever damage I need to do to start loosening up everything else. And as I start feeling grips loosen up, that's when I start moving. Even if I get into this position, couple strikes here to the groin. I can strike upwards to the face a little bit. I can strike to the throat if I need to. I can come over and immediately just follow strikes here. And we just start dropping hammer fists. We start dropping elbows. We start dropping forearms. Whatever you need to do, you can do the damage that you need to do to get away safely. All of that applies when it comes to a street situation. But the biggest thing that you have to take away from these positions, again, I have to control the choking arm and I have to work my hips free. If I don't do either of those things at the same time, in the sense of I have to constantly work towards both at the same time, but if I'm not doing that, he's gonna slowly start dominating in one area and then it's gonna be too late. So keep control of the choke, constantly be working to get your hips free, flail your feet around a little bit, just make it as difficult for this person to hold on to you, and you'll slowly find that his grips are starting to loosen up a little bit more. And as that happens, then you work free and you get out of that position. So give it a shot. Again, this is a great way to escape both in sport and in self-defense. You just have to add in a couple different things. Again, the strikes in the sport compared to strikes on the street and what you're allowed to do. But give it a shot, let us know what you think, and we'll see you next time.